All right, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Mom.
Hello, good evening.
Okay, sir.
I hear you.
Okay, so welcome to today's class.
Thank you.
So without wasting much of our time, I would just love one or two people to give us their take home for last class on space planning. Who can give us a take home, please? Mr. Ibo.
Yes, I'm the person who missed. I'm the person who missed most of classes. So I talking about take home of last week. I was just I was coming in and coming out, coming in and coming out. I didn't have a full class last week.
Okay, so while you were in, like, what did you get from the class while in the class?
What did you say, please?
Sir?
What did you say again?
I said, while you were in the class, like, what could you get from the class while you were in?
I doubt if I gave any attention to the class. This is the one problem I have. Sitting down and attend to the class. I think today I am ready to attend the class. Maybe coming next class, ask me this question. I'll have something to say.
Okay, thank you very much.
Just pick on me next class, okay?
Okay, so I'll do that.
Yeah.
That's it. So who else can give us a take home, please?
Hello. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Yeah. My takeaway last lecture rather, under the space planning and movement, I learned about space aggregation options. We are talking about a community whereby you can be the lecturer will be at a central place while the student or the receiver be at different locations, on that space option and location. Also about all decks breakout area, when a facility where people breakout areas whereby they will gather together to relax, to cool their nerves, to take tea. There's a space normal providing facility like that. And also, I learned about shun rate, what they call shun rate. This is a change of employee moving out of the company, and we are told that it can be in vertical. Vertical is as a result of promotion from one place to the other, while the horizontal is by leaving the job, the position, going to another organization. This is what I can say about what my take away last lecture. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, for that wonderful. So I think
Yep.
I'll hand over to the facilitator now, Architect Tosin. Architect Tosin, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, sir. Please, you can start your class.
Okay, good evening all. Um, I hope our day has gone well. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Let me just share my screen and then we'll go right into it. Today we shall be looking at facility project management, and we'll run this course under the following module, course outline. Of course, module 1, introduction, module 2, we look at define project, and then plan project, and then manage and oversee project, and project close project, and then 6 FM, and then conclusion. Um, by way of introduction, what is a project? A project is defined as a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. A project is temporary in that it has a defined beginning and end time. Therefore, it also has defined scope and resources that are involved in carrying out the project. A project is unique in that it is not a routine operation. A routine operation is something you do over and over and over again, that is just charted. But a specific set of operation designed to accomplish a singular goal. So a project team often includes people who don't usually work together. They don't necessarily have to work together, and sometimes may be from different organizations or across multiple geographical zones. Project is temporal. A project is unique. A project has a start and an end time. A project will always have scope that is attached to it, which talks about the work and the quality of delivery. A project always has stakeholders. And also, a project must have resources, either human, that's people, or material resources. And all must be done within an accepted and agreed budget. Planning projects. One of the things when you're planning a project that you must first of all do as a project manager at any point in time, you should be able to identify the project stakeholders as the project begins. And one of the stakeholders is the project sponsor. The project sponsor is the person that backs the project, that gives the project lives. And the project sponsor, you may only see the project sponsor maybe just once in the lifetime of the project, or twice at the beginning and the end of the project while the project is going on. We also have the receiver of the project deliverable. The projects are being complete, is handed over to somebody. That person the project is handed over to is the receiver of the project deliverable. For example, if you have a project to supply 10 packs of bottled water to be used for an event, after placing the order, once the water comes in, the packs of water comes in, you receive it, not necessarily because you are going to be the one to drink or use or partake of the water. You are the one that is receiving it, and then you give it to the end users, those that will be involved in actually using the project outcome. So you have the receiver of the project deliverables, you have the users of the project outcome, and then you have the project manager and his team, who are those that are majorly involved in seeing the project activity come to pass and working seriously at it also. While also defining or planning a project, you must be able to establish the project goals and deliverables. You must also be able to schedule tasks for the project. While all these are going, the critical question you must ask yourself when you're planning the project, why are you embarking on that project? That question, you need to answer the why question, and then you look at the where. Where do you want to do the project? And when are you doing the project? Is it this year? Is it next year? And how, what is the methodology you are going to apply in running the project? And then you look at what is the project deliverable? What is the project outcome? What are you expecting to come out of the project? And finally, you need to answer the question, for whom is the project deliverable going to be for? For whom is the project deliverable going to be for? The project manager as a person has some responsibility that is allotted to him. The project manager's responsibility, first of all, is to define clear and attainable project goals. The project objectives, so that it is clear and is attainable. And as we go through, we'll see what these objectives are like. The project objectives must be smart. The project manager must also be able to define the project by reducing it to a set of manageable tasks, and must be able to communicate the project objective to the project stakeholders. Everybody must understand the project itself and how to deliver the project to be sure that everybody is on the same plate. Must be able to procure the tools, materials that are required for the project in itself, and must be able to manage project constraint that is attached to the project. Must also be able to inform stakeholders of work progress regularly. Must be able to assess, monitor, and mitigate against risks that are attached to every project. Must be able to adapt to and manage changes in the project as they arise, and must determine and implement the client's need in the project. Must be able to determine the needs of the client and also be able to implement the needs of the client. The project manager must be able to work purposefully, must work within scope, must also work with people effectively while managing the finances that is attached to the project within the given timeline that is given. Looking at all the risks that is attached to the project in order to be able to implement the client's needs for the project. The project manager is supposed to have some skills. Part of the skills the project manager is supposed to have is conflict management, people management skill, leadership and result-oriented skill, with problem solving and creative thinking. Must be able to plan and organize and be organized as a project manager. He must have that as a skill, must have the organizational skill. Also must have the skill for time management and contract management also, and also must be a good negotiator, because from time to time, the project manager will be involved in different form of negotiation. Project management procedures, a case for project initiation. Every project must have a start point. And the start point of every project must be able to determine the purpose of the project. You must be able to determine the purpose of the project the different options to be considered when running the project. You must also be able to evaluate alternative methods on the project. Look at the benefits that the project will bring. Look at the possible disadvantage of the project, and also looking at the cost appraisal on the project to be sure that the project, looking at the cost vis-a-vis the investment that's been made, such that when the project is completed, you have good return on investment. You must be able also to be able to summarize all the potential risks that are associated with the project at the point of initiation. These are some of the things you must be sure to put in place as the project starts off. Project management processes. The project's life cycle includes the step required for the project manager to successfully manage a project from start to finish. Now we have 5 phases for the project life cycle, which are also called the 5 process groups. 1, you have the initiating stage, you have the planning phase, you have the executing phase, you have the monitoring and control phase, and you have the closing phase of the project. The processes fall into 5 active groups. Like I've mentioned, you have the initiating group, you have the planning group, you have the executive group, you have the monitoring and control, and then you have the closing group of every project. Every project must fall within the project life cycle. Every project must fall within the project life cycle. And most of the time, the core activity of the project is normally taking place during the project execution. That is when everybody begins to see activity for the project. However, it is always advisable that when you are starting a project, you should spend a lot of time in the planning stage so that you can get everything right before you commence execution. So that when you are commencing execution, it shortens the time for execution when you plan properly. Project execution is the phase of the project life cycle when the work is performed and everything in the project plan is put into action. The project scheduling and planning are simply the beginning part of the project. Most time and work, the energetic work and the consumption of finances or funds during the time of the project is done within the execution phase. Therefore, the execution in project management is critically important because that is where all the skills that the project manager has will come into bear. That is when you will use all your skill, your communication skill, your time management skill, your quality management skill, your cost management skill, your change management skill, your procurement skill, your risk management skill, all the skills that you have. This is where you will really use it as a project manager. The project execution steps. The steps during the project execution will change depending on the specific requirements of the project. Every project has its own requirements. So it is important for you to know how to manage this requirement at a given time and be sure that everything within the project is managed accordingly. These changes depend on the specific requirement of the project, and those particular steps are typically laid out. They are laid out in the project execution plan. However, there are general activities that should apply to all the projects. Every project has its own project execution plan. And then the project in itself, all projects that we have mentioned, they are unique. And these unique projects have his own challenges and have his own um, uh, um, risks that is associated with the project. That's why during the execution, before the execution phase, we are supposed to analyze this thing in different places, the different risks that is associated with the project. Create tasks, the project's execution steps. First of all, one of the things you need to do is to create the task that is associated with the project. After you have created a different task, you set timelines that is associated with this task. You set timelines that are associated with the task. Having set the timelines associated with the task that you have created, you also need to also assign the tasks to team members. You assign the tasks to different teams so that they're able to understand and carry out the project as is required. And then you are able to track the progress of work as the project goes. You track the progress of work as the project goes, and you are able to communicate regularly to all stakeholders. You need to engage them from time to time and schedule changes as is required. You schedule the changes that is required for the project. You need to learn to do that as a project manager during the execution phase. The project execution phase activities, including beginning the work itself, manage the workflow for all project tasks. And issue management that is also a part of the project. You need to manage the issues that may come up in the project. You need to look at having the risks management during this period. Also manage change orders that may arise during the time of the project, because every project in itself has its own associated challenges, and we must know this at every point in time so that you are able to manage the changes that are probably associated with the project at every form, at every point in time. Manage the project communication with all stakeholders. One of the skills that the project manager should have and should always ensure that happens is that you are able to communicate with stakeholders regularly. It is not an option. It is something, it is one of your greatest skill as a project manager. You should be able to communicate with stakeholders regularly, verify when milestones are reached, conduct gateway reviews as required, and report on project status regularly to stakeholders. Report on the status of the project to all the stakeholders regularly. Project triangle. This is used for analyzing the difficulties during the project execution. Used to illustrate the project success. Used to analyze the project goals. Used to illustrate the relationship between scope, time, cost, and quality. As seen in this diagram, the triangle, the triple constraint is what we call that. Is like an equilateral triangle. Once a project begins and the contract has been signed, the project in itself goes into this triple constraint, this triangle, an equilateral triangle. And in this triangle, all the sides are equal. It means that each element, the scope, the type, the cost have all been agreed, and each of them carries equal weight in the project constraint, while at the middle you have the quality. It means that if you touch any items on the edges of the triangle, it will impact on the quality. If you come and say, oh, you're supposed to tile 40 square meters for one night, one day, and you come and say, God, please, I'm increasing this thing to 5 square meters by 5 square meters. But when you increase that square meters, you don't expect the project to deliver it at the same time, because that will be affected. And then also the cost will be affected, because you need to get more materials and pay more for labor to be able to achieve the same request. While you are doing that change at that point in time, it is possible that may also impact on the quality of delivery that is associated with that project at a particular time. Project management structure. Role and responsibility defined and accepted. One of the things that you must do make sure happens during as you are starting the project. At every point in time, you need to define the roles and responsibilities that they are defined properly, and then they are also accepted. The project key roles include the project sponsor and the project manager. These are the key persons in the project. However, you still have some other stakeholders that are associated with this project. These two persons are the key persons in the project, can either make or mar the project. Project brief. The brief is a document that is able to give you a description of what to do in the project. And that has the project plan as part of the brief. It has the risks assessment and the project closure plan, which is part of the project brief at the initial time of the project. It's normally supposed to capture all that in the project charter. Project barriers. There are some things that are barriers in project. Once project is going on, there are some things that becomes barriers that you must watch against and watch out for. One, misunderstanding. You must make sure that everybody understands what they are doing in the project, and their different roles are clearly defined. Poor management. You must ensure you don't fall into that trap of poor management. Then also you have poor communication and personal conflicts, disagreements, goals, and objective not clearly defined. Bad weather, which is also should be part of risks. Those are things that can hamper the project. Ensure the following do not occur in any project. One, that the customer's expectation is not being met. Once the customer's expectation is not being met, the project has failed. So you must ensure that that doesn't happen. Exceeding the project budget. Exceeding the project budget. When project is being exceeded, the client is normally not happy. So as a project manager, you must try as much as possible not to exceed the project budget. And how do you do that? You must scope properly. Exceeding the project timeline. You must make sure you work within timeline. And where that is impossible, you make sure that also the scoping is properly done. When the scoping is properly done, you'll be able to give the adequate timeline associated with the project. Using inconsistent procedures and processes that are strange or alien, that has not been tested, please do not use it on projects. Significant amount of overtime affects the workers, and because of that, it makes them not to be productive. Waste of time and resources, unforeseen external and internal events. You must plan for the unforeseen events during your risk assessment so that you're able to see things that are not, apart from the ones that will call force majeure. You'll be able to plan for risks. You look ahead, you look at the risks, and then you're able to manage the risks as it were. Define project. Define phase and project input. Formulation of the project team. At every point at the beginning of a project, you must be able to formulate the project team. Document customers' needs. Develop a project charter and develop a process map. The process map is what lets you know from where you are standing, where the project is going to end, and every single thing that you need to do is associated with the project. Project objectives. The first steps in undertaking a project is to be able to define the project goals and objectives. The step requires to achieve the goals and the objectives. The objectives of a project, like I mentioned earlier on, must be smart. The project objectives must be smart. It must be concise. It must be clear. It must be accepted by the project stakeholders and provide definite description of the project itself. When defining objectives, separate goals from the objectives. The goals are broad statements of a project, while the goals are the what of a project. A project may have more than one goal, but several objectives are tied to a particular goal. The objectives are specific statements supporting a goal. Objectives is the how of the project process, is the how of the project process. Consider the following when defining the project objective. What stroke how, the time frame that is associated that you need to look at, expected outcome, criteria for achieving the expected outcome, ways to measure the expected outcome, defining project purpose, state the purpose of the project, link the purpose of the project to the organizational goals and objectives. Define the purpose. Defining the purpose helps to predict the problems, also helps in proper planning and controlling of the project activity, also help in planning and controlling the project activity. Performing programming. Programming involves management of various related projects, involves selecting projects and adjusting the speed at which they are running, involves adjustment of project scope, maximizing the value of the individual project portfolio and help to create outcomes with project deliverables, helps to create outcomes while project delivers the output. The program gives you the predicted outcome of the project, while the project itself gives you the output that is desired, the product that you desire to get out of the project and all the processes associated with it. Develop project scope statement. Define the project objectives and deliverables developed by the project scope is normally developed by the project team. It contains the description of the scope, the acceptance criteria, deliverables of the project, constraints that are associated with the project, and all the assumptions that you might probably have made in the project. Every project comes with its own project assumptions. Project charter. A project charter is a formal short document that states a project exists and provides the project manager with a written authority to begin work. A project charter document describes a project to create a shared understanding of its goal, objective, and resources required before the project scope. This project is scoped out in detail. It's a high-level documentation that gives you that the end is able to project charter. A project charter is normally created in line with the business case of the project as defined by the project sponsor, i.e., which refers to the person responsible for the project, for bringing the project to existence in itself. And it is a critical part of the initiation process at the start of the project. Ultimately, the purpose of the project charter is a document that is to document the goals and objectives for that particular project and show the business case for the work clearly. Once created, the project charter serves as a sort of contract between the project sponsor and the project manager, giving him a high-level overview of the expectation and the authority, authorizing the project manager to mobilize resources to achieve the project outcomes. The three, how to plan a project. First of all, in planning a project, you must define the project scope, which involves specific tasks, specific goals, the tasks that are associated with the project and deliverable. Also looking at the deadline and the cost that is associated with the project, looking at the resources that is required to bring the project to life, and clarifying the project parameters and limitations that are associated with the project. Also estimating the duration of each work activity. For instance, setting out the project duration. It involves estimating the duration of each work activity, integrating all the activities into a project schedule. Duration is based on availability of resources. The duration is based on availability of resources for the project. The components to be considered in setting duration. You look at time of delays so that you're able to accommodate that. That's what we call lag in the Gantt chart. You look at physical processes that needs to be taken. How will the job be done? What's the coefficient of difficulty associated with the work and the job that needs to be done? Also, work performance performed by people and not by machine. Look at the work that is performed by people. Look at the work that is performed by non-humans, that is machines, and then the type of resources required for the project in itself. Work breakdown structure. Work breakdown structure, the organization of the work, of the project work into manageable sections is what we call work breakdown structure. This decomposes the work activity into smaller components so that you're able to understand what needs to be done and makes complex projects more manageable. It helps to develop the project schedule and budget. It also used to identify potential risks that are associated with the project itself. Potential risks that are associated with the project itself. The purpose of creating a work breakdown structure is to help with assigning roles and responsibility that is associated with the project. Also help with accurate estimation of cost, time, and risks. Also shows project milestone and control points. Helps with accurate organization of the project itself. Also help with proper expansion of the project scope to this explanation of the project scope to the stakeholders. There are several resources that are associated with the project. You need to be able to plan the resources and understand when the resources are required for the project. Give you an example, somebody is doing a pure water factory, for example. You are supposed to know exactly the persons that is required to build and how and when they are supposed to come. If you are building a pure water factory, for example, yes, you need some steel persons to do the structure because it will be like a big warehouse that you'll be doing. You understand getting the structure. Yes, you may don't know where to source it, but by the time you get it, you understand that the steel structure has a particular point where you need to come into being. You cannot say, okay, that you are going to employ the carpenter that is going to do the roof. at the time you are doing the foundation. When the person comes, the person will just be earning money for free without doing anything because it's not that time. The person will not be wrong. But by the time you calculate and check all the things that the person needs to do, it gives you a proper perspective of how to properly scope the project. And be sure to be able to distribute the adequate resources that is required to carry out the project. So every resources has when you come into the project. It also defines the process of acquiring resources. The period each resources will be required, and then the requirements for training. Every resource will require training at one point or the other. Every resource requires training at one point or the other. Cost estimate serves as a guide in ensuring that the funds available are sufficient to complete the project. Also helps to see whether the needed funds are available to support the project. Enables comparison, enables the comparison of the anticipated benefits against the anticipated cost that is being spent in the project. You need to do a comparison from time to time of looking at what is the benefits that this project is going to give you vis-a-vis the cost you are spending to set the project up. You know, sometimes they tell you these days people are running to go and get solar inverter systems because of the price of band-aid that is coming, and even the electric power supply, even when you are paying very much in the band-aid that you have been put. You need to, normally after doing the math, you will know that it's probably better to get a solar inverter that can be serving you than to just depend on the PACL or Ikeja Electric or a co-distributed distribution company that's depending on the ones that is covering your area. You know what to do in order to reduce your exposure every day to NEPA. And then identify the project, if the project is viable, is also one important part of cost, of estimating the cost. Also, some of the things you need to understand, you need to take care, know that what is associated to the project. You have the direct cost for the project and the indirect cost. The direct cost is easy that this is looking at the team member salary, looking at the cost of material equipment and supplies, and also transportation. Those are the key headings that come under the direct cost that is associated with the project. The indirect cost is the overhead cost and the administrative charges that is associated with the project, which is something that you also need to consider when running the costing of any project. Manage and oversee the project. Develop project management plan. Project management plan is a document that outlines the project execution, the control and monitoring, and also defines the execution approach. It also helps to, is used to document all the assumptions made for planning for the project, during the project planning and the facilitation of the stakeholders communication. At every point in time, you must know that you must develop the project management plan, which will help you to deliver the project as required. The project management plan should address the following. What is the project addressed? What is the problem addressed by the project? You need to know which you are supposed to have resolved at the beginning of the project. You know the project and why you are doing the project, and what exactly is that project, the results going to solve when it is done. It's something that we need to look at every point in time. Then also, what are the project deliverables? What is expected to deliver for you or for you? In fact, what are the problems sorry, what are the project deliverables? You need to be able to know what the project deliverables are because it needs to address it. Who will be involved in the project? What are the project's team responsibility? What is the timeline that is associated with the project? Leading the project delivery team. The project manager himself must be able to learn to be able to lead without being forceful or authoritative so that you do not drive the workers out of sight and you're able to adequately mentor them on different levels and on different bases. Also, while leading a project, you must have understanding of how to motivate the people. Essentially, ingredients for a successful project, for a successful delivery of project. One of the essential ingredients is to ensure that the project team stays motivated. You must ensure that the project team stays motivated. They must be motivated well so that they'll be able to give their best in the project. The ability of the team member to communicate efficiently, quickly, and clearly sharing information within one another is one of the most important elements of a successful project. Increasing the knowledge of each of the project team also motivates them. Increasing each team member's ability to make decisions by allowing them do some things in order for them to grow. Then trust amongst team members you must ensure that each team member will trust themselves and they will say that at the end of the day, everybody comes together and the project succeeds. Risk management. Risk management. The time is 5:51. This is second to last module. I'll probably want us to take our break now and come back by 6 p.m. on the dot to come and finish the remaining parts of this course. I hope this is okay with us.
It's okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Well done, sir.
Okay, it's 6 o'clock. Can we continue the class? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Let's continue, sir.
Okay, great. Risk management. Common risks in the projects are as follows: unexpected reduction in the project budget. Sometimes you may be running a budget on a particular a project on a particular budget, and the clients may just awake and arise and cut down the budget that is associated with the project at that time. Roles and responsibilities when they are not clearly defined. Stakeholders' input are not obtained or are not sought. Slow customer feedback and review. These are some risks that are associated with the project. The stakeholders making adjustments to project requirements. Poor communication is a risk. Very optimistic cost and time estimate. Stakeholders need not fully understand. Stakeholders adding new requirements to the project. These are some of the direct risks that are associated with the project. Steps to managing project risks. One of the things you need to do is that the risk management should be part of the project plan from the word go. Early identification of the project risks is very important. Risks should be communicated to all parties involved. The risks must be communicated to all parties involved. Put precautionary measures in place to manage this risk. Consider, review, identify the risk, threats, and opportunity. Every risk itself have threats and opportunities. Then what you do, assign risks to owners. Prioritize risks. Risks should be closely analyzed and plan and implement response to risks on time. Also, a risk register should always be kept to be able to manage the risks and be abreast about the different risks that is associated with the project. Plan versus progress monitoring involves monitoring and tracking of the progress of the project schedule, helps in identifying the variance from the project baseline, also helps in keeping the project within the scope, budget, and time, helps to identify when there is a significant deviation in the project baseline. Every project in itself requires forms of management and control and monitoring so that the project is in course. As a project manager, it's one of the things that you must watch out for. You must from time to time ensure that all the projects, everything that is associated with the project, everybody and all the work is being done timely. And then the next task follows the previous one so that you don't have any lag time in the project. We will provide early indication of problems with the project activity coordination. Also, we also help you to look at the cost overrun in the project when you are having cost escalations and resource conflict. Is able to manage the resource that are associated with the project. Steps to monitoring project plan versus progress. Create a baseline and communication. Creating baseline helps you to know what the normal part of the project should take. And then when there are diversions to that baseline, you also know and you take that into cognizance. You take that into cognizance. Project management. A project budget provides an understanding of how funds should be utilized in the project, and then look at the expended on the project. One of the things that the project will do is do that how funds should be utilized and how it should be expended on the project. And also the work breakdown structure is the basis for project budget. The work breakdown structure is what helps you to put together a project as much as possible. A project budget can be properly maintained through continuous budget forecast, regular forecast of resource usage, proper scope management, keeping project team informed at all times, keeping project team informed at all times. The closing of a project is also an important part of the project. Project closing. Project closing comes at the tail end of the project. And at the tail end of the project, you must ensure that you get the client sign off. Sign off by the client is important for the project to close. You cannot just finish the project and walk away. You must have the client sign off, which actually indicates that what was promised is what was delivered. What was promised is what was delivered. The client sign off of work completion certificate. I'm sure we're not new to work completion certificate. Work completion certificate is what shows that the project is being complete. And after project outcome has been measured against the criteria of acceptance, that is when the work completion certificate is awarded and signed off. The work completion certificate records the information short at any comments about the project, success criteria of the project, the key metrics to be tackled, to be tracked, and high-level lessons learned from the project. Project analysis. After the project is done, it is always good to do a project analysis. The project analysis helps you to look at how the project has performed. The process of determining the real situation of the project, it helps to find out whether the project is operated properly or otherwise. Project analysis is normally done at the end of every key milestone, so you know the performance of the project. After the project has been completed, what next? After the completion of the project, confirm whether the project has become successful to achieving its objectives as was initially designed in the beginning of the project. Also, identify and resolve any issue that may arise during the project operation. Also look at, evaluate the project success or failure. The project was successful or had failed. Normally, after the project is completed, you do the analysis and determine if the expected objectives were successfully achieved. The following review are the following are reviewed at the project analysis stage. 1, achievement of the project objectives. Were they fully achieved? Were they fully achieved? Look at the proper utilization of the resources during the time of the project. Also look at saving of resources. How were you able to manage and save resources? The usefulness of the decisions that were taken during the time of the project, and the service delivery eventually when the project has been completed. Another important part of project closure is the project commissioning and handing over, which involve checking and inspecting and testing. Applies to all phases of the project. The objective of project commissioning is to ensure a safe and proper handing over of a project and guarantees the project's operability in terms of safety, performance, and reliability. Normally, once a car is produced, the car is tested to be sure that it meets the minimum required standard, and then that it is safe for you to ride. That's the way every project is. Every project, you must test and commission it to be sure that what has been built will be able to meet up with the objectives that it was set out to perform in the first case. Another thing that is part of the project that is critical is the indexing of the project file. Indexing of the project file helps you to probably put in perspective all the documentation that is associated with the project. As the establishment of project filing structure at the startup of the project, at the beginning of the project, that is when this normally happens, where you establish the project filing structure. The type of filing system depends on the project size. A simple single file may be used for a small project, while a file numbering system may be used for a large project. It is advisable that files are both kept manually and electronically. It is advisable that you keep files both manually and electronically. The following files should be kept for a project at any point in time. You have the contract file, which should house all the contract documentation, correspondence file that should house all the letters that you send, the correspondence that was done within the project. Administrative file, the administrative issues that is associated with the project, you must have this file. Technical file, you have all the technical documentations associated with the project. That is where you file it. Quality management file. This is where you have your QMS documentation, all the quality statements, the quality checks that you have done. All those things are filed in the particular file. And the construction support file, all the necessary support documentation to the construction are filed on the construction support file. And finally, you have what we call the document called lesson length. Document or lesson length. We call it the lesson length register. The lesson length are experiences gained from executing the project. Lessons learned should be identified and documented at the close of the project, so that for you as a project manager, you'll be able to take that documentation on that lesson learned when you're running another project. You are sure that the project, you are sure that you don't fall in the same pitfalls that you have during running the present project. Thank you very much. That's our time, and that's the slides for this. So I'll take our questions now. If you have any question, you can identify by raising up your hand at this time. Thank you very much. Okay, if you have any question at this time, please, I'll ask that you raise your hand so that I can attend to that. I'm seeing one. Tony, you can unmute yourself and ask your question. Tony, yes.
Okay, good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, so you made mention of risk management. So you said under the risk management that the stakeholders.
You're sounding very low. Can you increase your volume so I can hear you clearly? You're sounding far off.
Oh, can you hear me properly now?
A little better.
Okay. So what I was saying is you made mention of risk management. So
Yes.
in a situation where the stakeholders, where they cut down the budget, while you're already after the initiation and the planning stage, maybe you're like 50% into the project. How do you manage such a project where, for instance, the budgeted fund is, let's say, 50 million, and they are now cutting it down to 35 to 40 million? So how do you manage such a situation?
Okay, this is a very important question because we are in a situation like that in this country where people are just looking for a way to just cut project budgets without cost. However, for you as a project manager, one of the things you must learn to do is to be able to sell the project to the client and do what we call cost justification at every point in time. It is that cost justification that will help the project in the way that they will know the importance of having that project and not having cost cut off during the time of the project arbitrarily. That's one. Then two, you should also be able to advise the client. You must be cost smart by advising the client how to fund the project with alternative means. you must also be able to, like, I remember some years ago, where to do a particular project for a particular client that was having challenges in raising the required funds for the project, and they wanted to run the project. And the cost of the project as at that time was, I think, about 600 or something million. And immediately the client only had about 100 or something million to kickstart the project. And the client has in their business, they do a lot of, they have some cash flow coming in regularly. What we now did was to get some financial experts to sit with the client and advise them on how they can be setting funds aside when the project is going on. And it was not easy, but they were able to implement setting up, as the funds were coming in, they keep a percentage of the funds in a particular holding account before it is required. So that at every point in time, like what you mentioned during the time I was presenting, you must have what the project forecast. Where you are starting the foundation, you know how much you require for the next phase. So that as the client is releasing funds for the initial phase, you're already giving them indication, oh, in the next 1 month, in the next 2 months, you will require so amount. So that as they are putting the funds together, they are being smart to save that kind of funds so that you're able to run and the project is running as it goes. And when we did that suggestion to the client, it initially looked very difficult, but that was how the client was able to complete that project. They were just paying they were making funds available as they were just releasing it. So they didn't release the bulk fund at the time, but they were releasing it at different milestones at positions where it was comfortable for the contract for the project to be running without it breaking, so that you don't have people demobilizing from site. So you must also be able to look at different methodologies to like I said, we pray that we do not find ourselves in a position where the funds will be cut off, so that you always have adequate funds to run the project. I hope I've been
Yeah,
I hope
thank you
I'll be
very
able
much,
to
sir.
thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other question? Let me see your hand. Can raise your hand if you have questions, so I can take them. Okay, if anybody does not have any question, I'll probably ask that we'll take our time to go through the slides again. That will be sent to you, or they will be shared to you. And if you have any question, we'll be having another session again on Monday. And for those that are able to attend the physical class, we'll be having that tomorrow, so that you can attend that class. And then those questions will be trashed and those questions will be answered. I want to say at this time, thank you very much for your time. And we trust that you've learned one or two things. See you again in the next class. God bless you. Have a good evening.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So that's what I say. Take the ball.
I look at
Which is blue. This one, I want client. You player now.
I'm good as a professional. I like to use safety first. Even there, those connections there. No go well. When I'm poor, they can't run up with Just follow this side, go. See you. Okay. Just this side, that's not too. Go to your left, go your left, go your right. So that I know to break down when they use to make money. You know,